So what's going on, Ron? It's FitPlug Radio, our second episode. What we call this, an episode, or what we call
I think it's an actual episode, man. It's like from like a not a continuation. They're all mutually exclusive with like a common theme, which is fitness and all that goes along with it. That's pretty much the whole world, isn't it?
Right. So
the whole
welcome to the second episode of FitPlug with your boy DP and Big Ron Jones. Man, appreciate you for getting on here. And we got a few things that we want to talk about today. But how's your day going so far?
Man, all is well. The day actually went different for me today, being Tuesday, as yesterday. Well, actually, yesterday was also different. I've been waking up sore. Like, my knees have been worn out, man. I've been training in a different way these days lately, doing a lot of compound exercises and a lot of volume. And I think the volume is starting to get to my old knees, man. Like, I used to do multiple exercises of, my typical 10 to 12 rep range, but I decided to take on more volume by way of doing more actual sets. So I'm doing 5 sets now of about 10 to 12 reps, but I think it's just taking a toll, man. So I got to be smart and listen to these old bones of mine.
I was about to say, sound like getting old.
Man, that would it sound like. I mean, I'm glad the world can't see that, but I could definitely feel that in these knees. So that definitely changes cardio. In these knees.
So, got something we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about strength training versus cardio. And if you had to choose one for time efficiency, what should you choose?
That's funny because the double barrel question here is, should you choose? And that's going to change from person to person, right? Me personally, as you understand Ron Jones and his personal world of fitness as a bodybuilder, I should not choose cardio over strength training. I should be choosing strength training over cardio. Reason being is my whole world is off of visuals, aesthetics. You know what I mean? I don't have to performance, display, what I do. I'm not in the NFL, the NBA, I'm just having to look a certain way. So cardio is not going to be my number one thing I'm going to be doing. If I was pressed for time, I'd be choosing strength training, trying to develop and build my muscles. But you also know I'm a big strength training guy, only because I believe that, the process of building muscle is going to burn a ton of calories. The process of recovering that muscle is going to burn a ton of calories. Once the muscle is here, that big muscle I've established is burning a ton of calories. So now later on, when I use that bigger muscle, I'm burning even more calories. So if I do all that and get that diet just right, cardio is not really a priority in my world of, bodybuilding aesthetics, And
I think I take a different approach because it really depends. Being that, I'm right in the middle, but still more so on the strength training side. When I look at time efficiency, then I'm looking at what am I going to do in the least amount of time, or how can I make the workout most effective in an allotted time. So for me, it's going to be, if I had to choose, definitely strength training over cardio. But when you throw in for time efficiency, it's giving me the perspective of maybe I got 30 minutes. What can I do? So for me, it's going to be, a combination of strength training and cardio, which I'm grabbing weights and trying to hit all muscle groups quickly as I can, with as much weight that I can move as possible with the allotted time. So kind of like a loaded question, but by all means, I'm still going to be more so on the strength training side than any other side of that question. So like I said, I think it's a double loaded question in a sense. But I think that if you tackle it from the strength training side and possibly make a HIIT style or Tabata style, then you throw in your cardio side of it and you make it a more effective workout if we're looking at time efficiency.
So I guess the question had to be probably prefaced with the idea that, considering your goals, how do you prioritize strength training over cardio, And it's funny because, what you're doing makes a ton of sense as I understand your explicit goals and outcome. And on my end of things, I have to be able to maximize how much weight I can use. And I can't maximize that weight if I'm, as you were a moment ago, volume between exercises, intentionally getting your heart rate up. Well, that intentional elevation of my heart rate detracts from me being able to use, bigger weights. But again, though, my personal goal is to have abnormally large, muscles, not really concerned about the performance usage of them, as obviously hear you and that field of being more of a performance type person as well, included as your ultimate goal, at least. Mm-hmm. It would make sense to find that middle ground. I wonder what a lot of our listeners are really considering. You know what I mean? They have to, I think, at the same time, be honest with themselves and be very narrow in our focus. You know what I mean? Me and you seem very, very much similar, and we train a whole ton, but together. But our actual goals are actually different. Although visually here, we seem to be the same person from the outcome of things. But again, knowing what our explicit goals are. So I guess our listeners have to really understand what their explicit goal is, and that's going to help them make their best approach.
And exactly. That kind of leads us to the second part, strength training. What are we all going for? Aesthetics. And I think that your Instagram name, Big Ron Jones, it speaks for itself. It implies I'm going for mass. I'm going for the look of being big. And, absolutely. And it makes sense in the answer of your question. I mean, the answer to the statement before, strength training will be your go-to 100% over cardio, because if you're looking at more cardio, that means that you're going to start coming down in size. And if the goal is to get bigger, then of course we want to add and stack on some weight.
Absolutely.
So
prioritizing what I'm taking in.
There you go.
So I have to prioritize what I'm taking in, right?
Exactly. What are we going for? Aesthetics.
Mm-hmm. I am in the field of bodybuilding. I'm judged solely off of my aesthetics. They don't care how many push-ups I can do. They don't care how fast I can run. They're only judge me off a standard set of fixated poses. Turn to the left, turn to the left, turn to the left, turn to the left. Now let me cross compare you to the guy next to you. I just happen to have a criteria that's fairly simple. My judgment scorecard isn't very complex at all. Aesthetics is just going to be size, symmetry, and proportion. Specifically here, me being on a super heavyweight side of things, they really want to see some freakish size. So like you were saying earlier, having to balance between the two. How do I make sure I can keep my fat levels relatively low? But at the same time, though, how do I maximize the development of muscle? So, of course, I'm going to eat a lot more calories than the average person, but not so many that it allows me to create or add any fat to my frame, right? Because now I'm stepping away from the aesthetics, which is, the visual appeal, wanting to see just the muscle minus the actual fat that may cover or shroud that muscle from being visible to the public, or the judge at least.
Exactly. And again, that's not speaking against cardio, just only speaking a little bit higher on the strength training side and the nutrition side of how you are consuming your food and your strength training. So again, like we go back to the original statement, if you had to choose one for time efficiency, what should you choose? I think it all boils down to what aesthetics that you're looking for.
Yeah. If it's even aesthetics. If it's even aesthetics, right?
Exactly.
I mean, look at your mom and my mom. They can work out together, can't they? They have a good time together because their priority is going to be, let's just assume, heart health and quality of life. You know what I mean? So they'll have excellent scores when it comes to their blood scores, cholesterol, LDL, resting heart rate. And it's funny because, Darrell, at the end of the day here, you're going to put me and you, my mom and your mom, all standing side by side. And you're going to think the pinnacle of health is going to be me and you. And truth be told, just to keep it real with our listeners, it's kind of exposing, but we're actually oftentimes not the most healthy ones out there. Reason being is we hyper fixate on one area of our body, which happens to be muscle development. Now, here it is. Our moms, they balance in some healthy greens and some healthy foods and healthy salads and balanced amounts of protein, and they keep their cardiac system efficient, right? As you said a second ago, we're not worried about getting our heart rate through the roof or sustaining that. You know what I mean? So we can be so visually, seeming to be the pinnacles or examples of health, but not be the most stellar versions. By no means do we have bad health, by no means, but we're not the most stellar examples of it, as compared to who you think would be.
Exactly. So when that kind of brings us to the second part of this top conversation or this episode, again, not speaking against cardio, only speaking higher of the strength training, and we make some comparisons: pancakes to waffles, for example.
We love them both, don't we? I love pancakes.
Exactly.
Right? We'll be in IHOP, won't we? That's one of our little spots. And we'll be in Waffle House also, won't we? One of our little spots. We like both of them. I don't have to choose one over the other,
And then we'll look at strength training burns calories over time. Cardio burns calories right then and there. And I think a lot of people have to understand, and this kind of brings me back to, when I train my clients, specifically women, to be, for the sake of this conversation, I always give them heavy weight. And I always explain to them, with the time that I'm allotted, I have to give you something that's going to give me the most or the biggest bang for my buck in this 60-minute training session that I can get. You're not eating enough food. Your testosterone level is not high enough. So me adding heavier weight to your workout only is going to increase the amount of calories that you burn during this workout, gives me a chance to be a lot more efficient in the training session, and it pushes you because you would not usually pick up this amount of weight if it was just you. So, again, going back to just everything that we were talking about before, strength training to me would probably be just the biggest go-to overall, because you can knock out a lot of different things and benefit from strength training a lot more than the cardio side of things.
Absolutely.
If you are tackling it and approaching it in the right manner.
And it's funny because as you complicate the algorithm, right, you introduce clients. So as you said a second ago, now the conversation is going to shift, because your approach and being pragmatic, like just being realistic about who we're dealing with, the pragmatic of it, the pragmatism of it all is the fact that our clients, we're going to see them 3 times in a week. I'm only going to have you for, a maximum of 60 minutes. So how do I get the maximum yield out of the limited time I've been given to get this job done? And to be real with you, or to be real with our listeners, most of who we deal with are primarily females, and females who happen to have a certain goal as far as their appearance goes. You know what I mean? And it is oftentimes, if they understand it or not, a lot of their goals are truthfully contingent upon the development of muscle mass. Simple as that. Many of them believe that they just want the fat gone. And it's kind of hard from us because we have to always remember the larger picture at hand, and the client thinks they know how to get to that picture. And it's not how they think. And this is why we're able to do things like hand them certain weights in a certain fashion. You know what I mean? How do we attack certain clients based on who they physically are as far as how they appear? Some clients are shorter, so we have to train them in a certain way that's going to allow their leg to look longer, right? Some clients happen to have a certain appearance, so we have to go about them in a certain way to get the best out of who they are specifically. We do have the advantage of being able to give them heavier than usual weights. Why? Because we're right there on top of them as a professional. We know exactly when that form goes left. We know exactly when that form begins to possibly, facilitate or stage an injury. That's just the advantage of having a one-on-one personal trainer, is being able to really push that limit safely. Like you said, handing them the heaviest weights they can do, only because they're not going to do it on their own.
Exactly.
So
yeah, man, this episode wasn't really a very long episode. It was just touching on strength training and cardio and the benefits of the two, and preference from two different perspectives on which one we would want more than the other. And I think that if people are listening to this, and when people listen to this, it gives them a better perspective on how they should approach their fitness journey. It gives them some different things to think about on their fitness journey, and how they want to attack the results that they're going for. Because I know a lot of women tend to want to shy away from the weights or heavier weights, and tend to want to go to the cardio side, which in return, they'll turn around and ask for a toner body, a defined leg, a more toned leg, and you start using these words. For me, it turns into, well, we have to start sculpting the body. And the only way I can help and sculpt the body is if we start using weights. Where
muscle development.
Muscle development. There you go.
Yeah,
so,
I use that metaphor all the time. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
There you go. So definitely think that this episode of FitPlug can give people and our listeners a different approach to their goal, a different approach to gaining the results that they need, a different perspective of how they approach, their journey.
And even a heightened appreciation for it. You know what I mean? Just a heightened appreciation for certain elements of it. Let's leave with this metaphor here. The one I love about, I always talk about the actual hanger, the wire hanger and the wooden hanger. Like I said, I love to use metaphors. They go home with it, right? So the idea is simply, you have a wire hanger you brought home from the dry cleaner. You put a sweater on that hanger. You put two sweaters on that hanger. You put a third sweater on that hanger. That hanger, that sweater doesn't present so well across that wire hanger. Why? Because that wire hanger does not have structure to it. I don't care what you put on there. It's just not going to present very well. Now, if you go off here and use a wooden hanger, the same ones you get from like Saks Fifth or a much more higher end department store, those wooden hangers, they present that sweater or two or three so much better. Structure, your muscle mass, your frame is what is the wooden hanger. That is the true structure. So when you add things like muscle to it, it's going to present much better. But if you add things like life to it, that means an additional child. You add things like life to it, stress, or any kind of additional, I'm talking about fat deposits. You add these things to this structured frame, it's going to present well, period. So if you think you want to have, nice, well-formed glutes, well, truthfully, it's not a matter of fat deposit in your backside. It's a matter of true structure, muscle being put into position. And then when you ice that thing over with a little bit of female fat, now it presents itself properly here. There's structure to that versus it simply being a wire hanger that has no structure. It just droops. It's so important for our listeners to understand the importance of muscle. You don't have to preach muscle to males. They're all about it. But it's so important for our females to truly embrace, as we keep talking about so much, muscle development. It's going to give them a better look and also let them stay youthful as they age over time, because a youthful frame is marked by awesome posture. What is posture? It's all about muscle as it innervated to the actual skeletal system. Keeping that part going.
There you go. So
that part, my friend.
That part. So definitely great episode. Nice, quick, effective. Right at 20 minutes of information for our listeners, and just different perspective of how they go about approaching their fitness goal and obtaining and gaining results. So thank you, Ron, for again jumping on, and we'll be right back at it next week. Yeah, we'll be right back at it next week for another episode of FitPlug.
Thanks for letting us talk to you guys.
Peace.
Peace.